I'm Coryon. I'm in the studio today with Ruth Schwartz of High Performance Advocates. We have both worked together and done trainings together. Ruth specializes on a variety of business consulting and management to be able to give more power to your employees and be able to give them the ability to bring a lot more back to the business. And I do internet marketing. And I wanted to be able to get to know Ruth a little bit more and learn more about your business, so we decided to bring it into the studio, and I've got some questions for you. So let me start out with an easy one, which is, what is high performance?
Thanks, Coryon. That's a great place to start because I am a high performance advocate, and I don't take that lightly. There's a very specific path to making a business high performing. And it involves 4 very specific steps. The first step is that everybody in the business becomes a contributing partner to that business. And what we've learned in the last couple of decades of leadership and management theory is that people want to work at a place where they are truly valued for their contribution. Plain and simple. I mean, they want things to be clear, but if they're not really valued for what they're bringing and how they're contributing in real, meaningful ways, generally, they don't like their jobs. So what does that mean for business owners? It means that they've got high turnover, they are not able to really rely on the people who work for them, and they're constantly on a treadmill. I try to get business owners off that treadmill. So here's the 4 things. 1 is there has to be access to all the information that somebody would be needing in a business. And a lot of business owners tend to hold a lot of information very tight to their chest. We open that up. There's a couple of reasons why we open it up. Because the second part of high performance is that everybody in the business has to be able to solve problems when and where they occur. The third thing is that they have to be able to be a part of real decision making that would impact the business and their job there. And lastly, they have to be able to see the big picture, which has always been left just for the leaders and visionaries in the group. We work to make sure that whoever is the owner is the visionary and understands the vision of their company, but more importantly, that everybody in the business has that big picture and then can function in a broader sense, that they just don't have a narrow job description. When people have very, very narrow job descriptions, they tend to not be empowered and not feel a sense of real contribution or even understand their contribution. So those are the 4 points of high performance. Lots of information, being able to solve problems when and where they occur, being a part of decision making, and understanding and being a part of a broader view of the business.
Okay, great. And I know you've worked with a lot of different businesses working to put those principles into place. What are the kind of results a business should expect from working with you and doing high performance?
Well, the immediate effect is that it takes a lot of the stress off the owner of the business. Because the first thing that happens is we change the role of the business owner. They don't have to know everything and do everything and stress all by themselves anymore, because they're bringing in their staff in a very real way.
That's really important.
So the end result is to be free, to find the freedom in your business. And I know in some ways you've had this experience where you are able to be here now with me, even though your business is being run by your employees. Lots of business owners want that to happen, but they don't know how. Either they've had bad experiences in the past with employees that have burned them, and the answer to that is, well, what systems were happening in your business that allowed you to feel burned by an employee, right? So we fix those things in the business.
Mine was bookkeeping and accounting, not my strong point until I brought in the right kind of people. And similar to what you were talking about, giving them the kind of communication and feedback what I wanted, let them train me about how I wanted to go that direction, and then know that's not what I want to do about running my business. I'm not a bookkeeper type of person. And then they have the power and the decision making to do a lot to make it run smoothly. And it's a system, it's not about them. I could hire somebody else to fill that same kind of role.
So that's the first result that you'll get. You'll be free of a lot of stuff you shouldn't be doing in your business. But there's another, now, then we take it up a notch to be high performing. And we take it up a notch that not only will the bookkeepers in your business know the numbers and the key performance indicators that run your business, but everybody in the business becomes very key to it so that everybody in the business is involved in strategy. So your business starts to grow. And at the same time, you're doing less and your job becomes easier. So for leaders, what it means is that instead of being successful, I now learn how to make all the other people in my business successful. I teach them the business of business, right? Everything that entrepreneurs end up learning, we all kind of learn it on the fly, but we teach that to the people on our team so that they can be building strategy, whether we're there helping or not. I mean, we should, but sometimes you might need a little free time. That's another really big result that happens. I have lots of business owners who say, all I'd really like is a vacation. And it's like, wow, well, let's get you a vacation. You know, how long would you like to go?
Well, I just think that I wish I would have met you earlier. I have built a business called batteriesforless.com that I started about a dozen years ago. And a lot of those steps of being able to empower employees, have good communication, have better decision making, took me a while to get to that point, but now the big difference is that I can be here, that I have a lot more free time. I have a very qualified president who's running and managing the business, and everybody within the business has their roles and they know what they're doing with the vision in mind. So I think I would have shaved a few years off of my progress doing that if I would have had a little bit more of the focus that you bring to with your experience with business.
Right. So results.
Too little, too
benefits.
late for me. Story of my life.
Well, and there's probably even a next level for you. Because
no.
Yes, there's even a next.
Dare say.
And it gets even bigger. I mean, one of the dreams that I have is that coming out of this recession, and now people are hiring up again, and they're starting to relook at how are we going to do what we were doing in smarter ways, right? I mean, everybody's kind of getting back in the game. If you're still in it, we're getting back to growth now. And my big dream is that as entrepreneurs start to do that, that you start to see that we don't have to repeat all of the idiocy of the last millennium. We don't have to have jobs that people don't want anymore. We don't have to return to employees that aren't on our side, that we solve the problem of people having jobs they don't like and the employees we don't like. We solve that in one fell swoop, and that entrepreneurs are going to lead that charge because entrepreneurs are limber enough to really create the businesses that they would like to own, work at, and be a part of, and be real contributors to. And there's such a great feeling in the world right now that the love between a company and its customers, the collaboration that happens there, should be mirrored in a collaborative way between the employees and management of any business.
And I think there's a lot of great examples of that out there, and the entrepreneurial spirit being able to be honed and built into business systems, and I think that's a big part of what you do. And I know that you recently published a book called The Key to the Golden Handcuffs, which
Correct.
I've started skimming through. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but can you tell me a little bit more about that book and how that ties into your approach to running businesses?
What I found is people, because they're holding their information so close to their chest in a leadership role, they just wouldn't believe that I could make it work, right? I mean, there's a whole movement of open book management out there in the world, and I practiced it for over 20 years. But people would say, no, that can't possibly work. So that was my way of saying, no, let me write down the story of what I did and why it worked and why the other people in the business were so profoundly affected by it.
And tell me about that business. I'm not sure if everybody knows your background.
Well, I founded a business called Mordam Records in 1983, and that was a music distribution company. And over the 20 years that I owned it, 23 years that I owned it, I built that into over a $10 million company. And certainly we were in the right place at the right time, but I was very dedicated to not having jobs that suck. Basically, I'd had a few of those, and I didn't want to be that.
I've worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken. My pants were so greasy that the wash couldn't even make them less slick. It was pretty awful.
But here's the deal. And here's my belief.
Oh, no.
A Kentucky Fried Chicken that is run as a high-performing business, that is run as an open book business.
Can't do
where
anything about the grease.
You can't do anything about the grease, but people would still love to be there and feel their contribution to be very important.
Yeah.
And those
are the businesses I like going to too. Or you're a place where Trader Joe's is a great example, whether they do it for real or whether they do it with the appearance of employees having a good time, being more relaxed, and being part of the company. I feel great kind of going into that atmosphere, and it's something that
but it's more than atmosphere. So
Understood.
Here's the thing.
But that's why I'm not going to speak to Trader Joe's behind the curtain as much.
There are absolutely great examples out in the world of companies who are following this model and making not just a good atmosphere. Great atmosphere is important, but really making everybody who works there into a contributing partner. Really opening it up to true consensus building in their business. And that was the story of the key to the golden handcuffs. So the key to the golden handcuffs is my way of saying entrepreneurs tend to get themselves locked into their business so that they cannot step away. This is the prevailing symptom. I can't go anything. I have to do everything. I can't trust anybody. Etc. And there's certainly examples of people freeing themselves from that, but it is a prevailing problem. So the key to it, and they're golden. I mean, if you're successful, I'm speaking about extremely successful people. I mean, I was $10 million in and realized, oh, wow, this is what has happened here in terms of building high performance and building an open book company and people who were really contributing. It was the key. It was the key.
Great. Decision-making within a business really interests me because that's been an important part of how I've built Batteries for Less. Even to when I've hired new employees, I've always asked about their ambitions and where they want to see themselves and what are the skills they want to develop. I find it really tough at a lot of times, though, to go beyond just a departmental point of view, that this person's in charge of this department and this person's in charge of this department, and be able to make the right kind of decisions that might step on somebody's toes, for example. So can you speak to that a little bit more and talk about how you can build better decision-making into your company at those, at every level of the company?
My antidote for that kind of decision-making and to keep everybody smart and contributing and strategic is that your whole company has to be talking to each other. So one way of doing it, depending on the size of your company, is that whether you're all on the same site or virtual or whatever, you have to have meetings, and you have to have strategic meetings. And these would be outside your departmental production meetings. Anything that's a departmental production meeting, we call that a huddle. And they often happen on the fly, or they could be regularly scheduled. It could be each department is going to have different needs for its own production. What happens to make people contributing partners and to reach a certain level of consensus is to bring everybody together. And one thing that business owners are always thinking about is, why does the guy in delivery have to talk to the gal in marketing or the fellow in sales, and how would that really not be a time waster?
And do you work to actually structure the way different departments cross-pollinate, or is it more organic that if somebody sees something that they think that would help somebody else, that they just go and say, hey, I want to take a moment and talk to you about this topic? Here's
my recommendation, but I do believe that every company is unique and it should develop its own unique formula for this. And that's this whole belief about entrepreneurs can change the world right now because we're able to be as unique as each business actually is. But my recommendation is that everybody in your business have a time where you're all together talking. and that your agenda for that meeting is very top level and strategic. And in order to make that decision process work, you might have to teach them stuff they don't know. But I used to have full group consensus meetings, and that meant that when we were talking about how to drive more sales of a particular product, right? Or there's a lot of different strategic topics. But let's say we were we want to reach these numbers, right? And everybody's looking at the numbers. That somebody in every department is driving that in some way. So each department learns to keep its key numbers and its key dashboard and report back to the whole group in a very intelligent way so that consensus process decision making
And all
can
that
happen.
talking is really worth it.
Yes, it really is. And the more you do it, the better you get. So I had a lot of situations, and you'll read some of the stories in the book, where I insisted that everybody do a quarterly financial review just to do financial key indicators. And I would teach people, because people in businesses don't understand what a net profit is and these kinds of things. But suddenly each person starts to see, even some reluctantly when they would first come in, that they personally have an impact on those numbers. And then somebody whose job is completely different from theirs would have a whole nother way of looking at that elephant. And better decisions were always made. And then we spent 2 hours a month, and nothing was sacred. So we would talk anything from our compensation systems to our development systems, how are people being developed, how are people being paid, all the way to how are we going to drive financial results. Everything. Nothing was too sacred, as long as during that 2 hours that it was only strategic and not production.
It might mean we have to spend less time talking about Dancing with the Stars, but I guess it's worth it if it's for the whole company.
It works.
I want to ask you about the Mastermind program, because I've been seeing your work leading up to that. What is the High Performance Mastermind program?
What I do to help leaders change their role in the company, get free, get everybody contributing, create a high-performance environment is a lot of one-on-one coaching with people, but I am a true believer in Mastermind, which means that business owners come together as a group and not only hold themselves accountable to the things they need to do in their business, but they come with a greater pool of information than I can by myself. Because they're all experiencing different things. Mastermind is a brilliant thing. The other thing that I've realized about Mastermind is that a lot of Mastermind is voluntary. And it works for a limited amount of time to the amount of people volunteering to keep it going. But when you
tell me, what is Mastermind?
Mastermind is a group of people who come together on a regular basis and talk over their strategies, their ability to execute, their problems, their ideas. They give feedback. It's just an environment to do that. And so I work with business owners, bringing them together into groups to do just that. So they learn, they hold each other accountable, they give each other a lot of feedback. So what I offer is I operate as a paid facilitator of those groups, and I'm driving the learning with this information to get them to high performance, do one-on-one coaching and Mastermind as a combination.
And I know from having participated in your groups and other ones like that, there's a lot of accountability that comes with that too. Yeah. That if I'm working with people that are my peers as business owners and managers and decision makers, that if I come in with a plan that I got some comments on, and then I come back a month later and I haven't done anything, and I come back a month later and it's still a great plan, but man, I will get to that. You know, you can't do that as much because you're looking at somebody who's going to look at you and say, no, you're an entrepreneur, make the time, this is a priority, just do it.
Right.
So I think there's a lot that you can get out of the Mastermind groups, and I've definitely appreciated the people that you've introduced me to that I now have experts in a variety of different areas, and I know for you, being your expert for internet marketing, has helped out the people that you've run in from other areas. So.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, you should consider Mastermind. It's a great combination because we can work one-on-one on very specific things that are happening in somebody's business and then bring it in for just so much more feedback. And the groups that I run traditionally are cross-industry. There's no competitors. When there's competitors in a group with you, you tend to hold back a little bit. But in a group where there's no competitors, you get all that out-of-the-box thinking going, and you don't worry. It's more open. So people are basically calling you on your stuff.
Good.
And we all have stuff, and our employees and the professionals in our lives rarely call us on our stuff. The folks that we're paying who are vested in us, our attorney, our CPA, these kind of people who are vested in us because you're paying the bill, they're not always paid to be honest with you.
No, I need honest people around me, for sure. How would people learn a little bit more about you and how to get in touch with you for the Mastermind program, or your book, or your consulting services and your video products? There's so much stuff that you do. So how do people find out more about that?
highperformanceadvocates.com, or more specifically, highperformancemastermindgroup.com.